Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And welcome to book 2 of the Harry Potter series. Yay!
Good
Oh
save.
my gosh. I'm having so much fun with this Harry Potter stuff that, yeah, I'm glad that I scheduled this for 2 weeks because there's no way we could have finished this in one episode.
Listen, we could actually tear this down book by book, but I don't know if everybody wants to listen to an episode on each book.
It's kind of like going through Doctor Who. It's like, you gotta kind of
I mean, I would. I'd be in. But some of our listeners would be like, shut her up.
I would listen to you talk about Doctor Who forever, but I just wanted to say that I got on my Firebird 5000 from the top of the Majestic Theater and rode it all the way back to Jersey City, just because to be here again on this glorious day.
I mean, your Firebolt. I'm taking away your Harry Potter card.
See, I have a Firebird base. Okay,
it's a thing. I'm Dub. I'm here with Christina. We're here with Satomi. We're here with Chris, and we are punch drunk. Behind the scenes, here's the truth that's going on. We did this in one long night, but with that being said, we did want to split this up into two.
Oh, you spoiled! I was playing. Hold
on.
All
we're wearing the same clothes.
It's clean. I did the laundry this week. Did you not do your laundry, Dub?
No, I didn't.
Ew.
I rarely. You don't see me. Yeah, there's at least like 4 or 5 weeks in between.
I think the boys are high on flu powder.
It's possible. It's possible. You're using a little too much.
Okay.
Travel from here to there.
Okay, now so this episode we are talking books 5 through 7, which are The Order of the Phoenix, The Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows, and we are going to get to, I think, the majority of the characters that you guys were mad that we missed last week. I'm sure we'll still miss some, and I apologize, but it is what it is. Okay, let's start with that. Let's start this out with some controversy. You guys can get as mad at me as you want, but I'm going to say it. I feel like Harry's dad, when you go back and you look, he was as much of a bully and dirtbag as Draco was.
That's not a
I don't think that's controversial.
No.
Wow. Everybody else, when I say that, they get mad.
Really?
Yeah.
I think Lily made him better, but no,
he's scummy.
Yeah.
He was a jerk.
He really was
horrible to Snape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he was. I mean, I think that was all done on purpose because it was again a way to humanize people.
Yeah.
You know, we get these ideas in our heads that people don't change. Some aspects of our personalities, of our basic personalities, may not, but we grow. Well, no.
Yeah.
Let me take that back. Some people don't change.
That's true.
Some people don't change. But if you learn from your mistakes and you learn from your life, as James Potter did, you create a better life. So again, he was a little when he was.
I like him about as much as I like Dumbledore, how we talked last week. I think that some of the things he did, I mean, this is like battered wives type feel with Lily. I'm like, and I'm not saying that lightly. It's just gross. It's
it's sort of
this
like
is something that really bothered me
Draco.
last time I watched.
Well, I mean, they really laid it on thick in the movies.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the best way I can describe him is a line from Kung Fu Panda. Gadoosh.
There you go.
So,
well said.
But did they make Lily too perfect because of it? No.
I'm kind of gonna touch on
this
situation. So throughout the first couple books, they portray Lily and James as heroes, and Harry yearns for his parents who loved him. And then on what Satomi said, we see him be a complete jerk and be a bully that humanizes him because he's not this great person that Harry was told he was. He was actually kind of a jerk. And Lily, I think, balanced him out. Because I got on the whole, I was kind of hoping that Snape and Lily became a thing but they didn't.
And it was really Harry was really
Snape's kid. Wouldn't that be wild?
That would be so wild.
I'm sure it's written in fan fiction somewhere in J.K. Rowling's safe.
Yeah, there is.
Somewhere.
It's called the Twilight Saga.
You just made me sick. Thank you so
You're
much.
Welcome. That's the sound gross. Of Dub throwing up in his mouth.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but I want to kind of go a little bit deeper into this. Okay, in these last 3 books, /4 movies, they get dark. Do you feel like it crossed a line? And yes, we talked about how it needed to go dark. Do you feel like it went too far? And I think it did, but I know that some of you guys disagree. I feel like the last 2 movies especially went too dark, but that's me. So what? Go ahead and argue with me all you want, Satomi. I'm watching you.
I love it. But I mean, I've always had a taste for the macabre and the taste for the dark, because that's when it got exciting and felt really a little more visceral, and it took this world that has been developed and turned into this real place in my brain and in my dreams, and gave it that flip side of the coin. So it became a whole world instead of just the sweet. We got the sweet with the savory. And as everyone knows, chocolate covered salted pretzels are better than just pretzels or just chocolate.
Pretzels are life.
Yes, and when you put chocolate with them.
Well, no, I would agree. If you put chocolate with them, they're fantastic. If you put dark chocolate with them, they suck.
No,
I feel like this went a little bit dark chocolate because it was. I think it was too much of that dark taste in my mouth.
Oh,
at the same time.
I loved it.
Oh no, I completely disagree with that, Dub.
Fair enough.
I need to say on record that the best book, which I gushed about last week, was followed by the absolute worst book and the longest book in the entire series. However, we got the best villain of the entire series in that book. We got Umbridge, who is universally hated.
Very weird. That's going to be the biggest one we're going to talk about in our character study. So hold it.
I'm going to hold it.
That's some hatred. Yes.
I'm wearing pink, which also has your logo on it, in honor of Dolores Umbridge, the greatest villain ever written into a kid's book. But, like, as I mentioned last week, the Goblet of Fire was the turning point for the whole series. And they didn't dip their toe into the deep end of darkness. They just went right to the bottom of the abyss, especially with Half-Blood Prince. But, man, I just have to say, I could not get through Order of the Phoenix. Like, when it finally got to the end of it, I was like, okay, this was a decent book. But
that was probably because that's when Harry is essentially being a typical, sorry to my teen listeners, but a hormonal teenager. This was when I wanted to smack him on the face so bad. So I agree with you. Like, I spent half of the book just peeved at him.
Yeah.
But story-wise, there was some really fun stuff going on there.
Yeah.
That was some really fun. Because, I mean, didn't we get Tonks there? And we got, we got 12 Grimmauld Place and all of that. And we got Creature and, we got all the history of, what were they called? The Order of the Phoenix.
Wah, wah.
Title of the book.
Hey, listen. We already did a show today, and then we did another show. So brain. Yeah. Well, I've got a bunch of nargles in my brain right now.
I love nargles. I love it. Now, this is when we do get introduced to Luna Lovegood, which we talked about her last week. I love this character. But I think another problem we have with why it feels so dark, and Daniel Radcliffe will tell you anyway in several interviews, this is when his drinking problem had started, and his substance.
Was it?
Yep, it was end of Order of Phoenix, and you can see it in the performance.
Yeah, but I also think it's a taste thing, because like some people at Christmas time watch Hallmark movies. Some of us watch Christmas horror. Like
or Nightmare Before Christmas.
Or yes, Nightmare Before Christmas. So absolutely it wasn't too dark for me. I loved it. I thought it was just exquisitely dark enough.
I'm not saying
I like dark chocolate with my pretzels. So what?
No, I'm saying I'm not saying that I hated it by any means, but I just think I felt like it went too far in the deep end too fast. You know, that's me. I know some people agree with me.
But that's one of the reasons that I adore you, Dub, and because it's important to have those contrasting tastes. And I love that you are always so enamored with the bright and the beautiful, and that
look at me. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah, well, exactly. And you know, Christine and I will head over into the corner with our black nails
and our black nails
and yeah, exactly. And
I'm getting scared, Chris. Okay, so let's move on before
cooking up snake and spider stew. So yeah,
how fun. Okay, I think this is an important thing, and this is going to lead me to a question that I haven't asked you guys yet. But let's talk about some of the couplings that happened throughout the Harry Potter books, because we're in the second half, so we can talk about all of them. And I'm going to give 2 opinions. I think that both of the main relationships that happened shouldn't have happened. I think that they should have dated for like a week each. And that's the Ron and Hermione, I think, would be a terrible couple. There's no way that they should have been married. They're just not right for each other. Harry would be better with Hermione. Wait. Let me finish. Then you guys can fight me. And then there is the Harry and Ginny, which they had all the screen chemistry. Screen chemistry was worse in the books, but even in the books, it didn't make sense to me. Other than the fact that, well, he wants to be part of the Weasley family. And I felt like that's what they wanted. And then there's the one couple that I did love. That of kids, there are some adults, but the kids, I love the Luna and
Neville.
I love it.
Neville.
That one made me happy.
They had the best on-screen kiss of all 3.
Yeah.
So what's your guys' thoughts on at least these 3 relationships? Did they work for you? Did they not?
Should we let the boys go first? Yeah.
I'll go first. I really wanted Harry and Hermione because that's where I thought
it makes more sense.
Going.
Yeah.
I don't know who Ron would have ended up with if
Dobby.
Yeah. I'm being told by my wife who's listening to this, who's a huge Harry Potter fan, that I'm wrong for saying that Harry and Hermione should have been a thing. She wanted me to say on record that Hermione forever. But yeah, Ginny Weasley, I had no problem. Honestly, I had no problem with it. I was more interested in seeing what they would do to Umbridge and the Half-Blood Prince and Snape and all that.
And what happened in the books is so much better than what happened in the movie.
It really is. But I honestly, you know, if just to make my wife mad, what if Harry and Cho Chang stayed together?
You know what?
How would have that been?
She screwed up. Like everyone else in that book didn't.
She did. She really did.
And she was a
well in the books. Remember, it wasn't. I mean, there was Veritaserum involved with her, but it actually wasn't her that was the snitch. It was a character that didn't make it to the films. So
so she was a scapegoat. But you know, they had a great chemistry on screen, and she's just. I really liked it. Okay, so Christina, tell us your thoughts on the child relationships here that I feel creepy about talking about now.
I think it was better written in the books.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I feel like the acting was very stilted and awkward other than Neville and Luna. And I just adored them. And like one of my favorite lines is when he's like, "Where's Luna? We may die tonight. I love that.
I've got to tell her I'm hot for her."
I just love that moment. But yeah, I feel like had we had more seasoned actors, had they actually let that be a little more natural, because like it was like 1 minute we're in this scene and then we're going to try to squish some romance in there. So I feel like the flow in the movie was really bad, on top of the actors being incredibly awkward.
Fair enough. Hitomi, I know you have opinions.
I so do.
So we'll all sit back and have a coffee. Go for it.
I agree with Christina on this. Part of it is you had actors who were barely exploring their own sexuality themselves as people, and their awkwardness with then letting the rest of the world see them in this vulnerable space was very, very clear. We didn't get the sexual tension that built up. They did what they could with it, with, Ron and Hermione, the touching in the back, but it was all very, acted with a K, because they were not comfortable in their own skins with that kind of interaction yet. I thought it was very well written in the book. It made perfect sense to me. And I agree. Neville and Luna had great chemistry. It made sense because they were both awkward. I disagree with you about Ron and Hermione, because we've all seen this in the world. Opposites attract.
Oh, they would hate each other. I think they'd hate each other.
Listen.
Look at me and Sean, Wendell. We could not be any more opposite, and we've been married 28 years. Like, genuinely,
he's dumb as a box of rocks, and she's brilliant. You know what I mean?
Except he's not. His strengths are more in instinct, and hers are more in intellect. So they actually kind of yin yang each other.
And he was an herbology genius, like gillyweed, Harry, like
blaze it. Hey, he got it.
Well, but that was Neville.
That was Neville.
I also need to add this little tidbit from my wife about Cho Chang. She used Harry as a rebound for her dead boyfriend, which is totally gross. So thank you to my wife, Amanda Garrett Giorgetti, for that little tidbit.
Amanda, you're my spirit animal.
It is true. It is true.
There's something I'd say on this podcast, but this is a family show, so I'm not going to say.
Well, you want to talk about rebounds? We got the twins. I'm just saying, Hermione is basically a rebound for Lavender.
Except he was never really involved with Lavender. She was just...
That was just creepy.
She just hadn't been asked out yet.
She had the love potion.
Oh, Lavender. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Lavender Brown. Sorry, I was thinking of the Patil twins.
Tell you what, I want to hit that one for a second. The Lavender character. I wanted to... She's a fruitcake, but I wanted to see more from this character. I don't... Crazy girl. It's just nuts.
She was a lot of fun. She was a lot of fun. She was over the top, and she was a lot of fun. Especially once they broke up. She was a more socially normal Luna. Yeah. Okay, I could see that. See that.
Okay, so with that being said, now let's talk about the finale of both the books and the movie. I wish I would have never seen or read the last, 5 pages of that book and seen the last 5 minutes of that movie.
The epilogue.
It was depressing. You see them and everybody looks like, I'm going to go home and drink myself to death as soon as I drop my kids off with the train. And it just got this both the book and the movie. It just felt so morbid. Like, hi, I just went through everything else in the world, had biggest adventures in the world, and now I'm in, social service.
Well, I think the epilogue's important to the arc of the whole series because it shows that Harry Potter and his gang of wizards and witches and other magical beings, they were able to survive, defeat
the mediocre lives. It felt so. Their lives just felt so mediocre.
Hermione's the head of the Ministry of Magic.
She's the only one. She's the only one that had anything.
Isn't Harry an Auror at this point?
Yeah, he's like a social. It seemed like he was a mid-level bureaucrat. That's what it felt like.
I mean, if you guys come to New York, sorry.
No. I actually was going to go in that, so you go ahead.
If you guys come to New York and see the Cursed Child play, it's explained.
I want to really bad.
It's amazing. Yeah. Come see it and then see Phantom. because we're in Phantom.
Yeah.
But the epilogue's important to the story.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Our audience has
You
never
didn't?
heard that before.
No?
So I'm
epilogue-
alone in that one though. It's just, yeah.
It's important.
I don't know if you're alone. I mean, I am. I could take or leave the epilogue. I think its point is that life goes on, and that we don't. I think she was trying to avoid a happily ever after ending, because the rest of the books are not about encapsulating life into these clean little frames. It is about how life is messy and choices are made, and then you go on. And actually, the Cursed Child does go into the fact that Harry has PTSD, essentially, which makes perfect sense after, I'm sorry, but he was handed a pretty nasty hand in life.
Completely. And like in every direction.
Yes. Yes. But the epilogue is about him saying, especially when we get that wonderful gift of Albus Severus Potter.
Yeah.
Of the,
And why didn't they have Draco in the movie epilogue, but they had him in the book?
No, they had him in the epilogue.
They must cut him on the HBO, because I just watched it last night.
No, he's in there.
No, he's in there.
I'm gonna have to look at it again, because I was looking for it.
Harry and him look at each other and kind of nod.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that, but again, I just watched it last night and I didn't see it. So I don't know.
Watched it. I finished
it
at 5:30.
I could have blinked.
Maybe you were sleepy.
I could have been.
Yeah.
But
thinking about this, just thinking about this, aside from the first book, there really aren't a lot of happy endings in this series or any of the books. It's a very real series, and we talked about this in length last week of why it's so relatable. This is one of those reasons, because not every day or every moment in life is a happy one. There's some really bad moments, and
some of them are neutral.
Yeah.
Like sending your kids off to school.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but
no, me and my son were talking about it last night when we finished it up, and the second that he takes the wand, throws out both parts, which he should have kept one part so that he makes sure that no one else takes it and puts it back together. But that's another story. The second that he broke it apart and threw it, and then he made that last little statement, that's where the movie, I felt like, ended. The epilogue kind of took me away.
It's like Lord of the Rings, where, we had like 7 endings.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
You're like, just stop.
I mean, it's like on the one hand, you're like, I don't want it to end. And on the other hand,
take the ring. But
it's
done.
Ended.
Done.
Like
it's over.
times.
It's over.
Yeah.
Done.
Isn't this over yet? Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
Maybe in a way it was her handing it off to the next generation and saying, here, it could be you next. I don't know. I mean, there's so many ways to look at it.
The way it felt like to me is like, okay, well, Harry Potter will be back in Harry Potter, the Next Generation.
The Avengers.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like
the young Harry Potters.
Okay.
Yeah. Triwizard 2035.
So we are going to go on from here because it's late as heck. So we are going to go on to our listener feedback, and from there we'll hit onto our main event.
And now, let's see what all of our geek rock stars have to say.
Okay, so for yet another listener feedback with the whole cast disappears. It's like magic. Abracadabra. Okay, well, maybe not. Okay, so we asked on this question, what is your favorite Harry Potter character and why? And Expecto Patronum, tell us what they are there.
All right, magically jumping in with a fantastic comment is Lee. He says, Neville Longbottom, not only is he my favorite character, or he is because we went through similar school experiences, and he has the singularly most potent scene and speech, the end of Deathly Hallows, in the entire series. I 1000% agree with that. Danielle tells us the character she identifies with is Dobby. At the core of his being, he was courageous, selfless, loyal, loving, protective, and kind, despite having lived most of his life abused and treated like crap by his family. Unfortunately, I know that life too, and while I don't see myself heroic by any means or selfless, I like to think I exhibit to others, and at the end of the day, I would 100% die for the ones I love. So yeah, Dobby. Dobby gets my heart every single time. And then our very own Michelle jumps in and says, Hermione Granger, because she's smart, level-headed, strong, sassy, and independent girl who has a huge heart, but always gets called bossy, and nobody wants to listen to her until it's too late. She is probably taken for granted more than any other character, but always ends up coming out ahead. And I feel like, Michelle, this is like your spirit animal, because this is kind of what we think about you, because you're amazing.
Okay, so that was our listener feedbacks for those. Of course, we had a lot more that we didn't read. Go on the Facebook and check out all the rest of them, because there is a lot. Okay, and back to the rest of the cast, and poof.
Now it's time for the main event.
Okay, so for today's main event, we are going to do all the rest of the character studies of what we didn't do last time. Yell at me later for the ones I missed. I know I missed a lot. Sorry. Okay, so the first character I want to talk about was probably the most brilliant performance put out in Harry Potter. Probably one of the best performances I've seen in any movie ever, and that was Snape with Alan Rickman. Just, oh my gosh! Okay. You hate him, and then you love him, and then you hate him again, and then you love him, and then you really hate him, and then you're like, oh, I forgive you. I just want to hug you now.
That's his whole arc, forgiveness. That's his whole, you could argue like that's his whole arc, because he's such an integral part of the story in Harry's life, because he's also conflicted about Harry, because here's the bully's kid and now I can get revenge on him. Yeah. And he kind of does. He kind of takes out his anger on Harry, but
somewhat.
Then you have these moments where he always loved Harry and he always wanted to protect him, and he loved Lily always.
Yeah.
It's just, he's one of my favorite characters.
And how he
and how he's so annoyed. Yeah.
Like these kids are annoying me with the head and all that. I'm like,
yeah.
He's so conflicted.
Yeah.
24/7. Every moment he's there is this internal life that's happening. And as an audience, you don't necessarily know what's going on in his mind, but you want to watch it and see what happens. And that's, I mean, it's Alan freaking Rickman. And what's amazing is apparently he was just the biggest jokester, the funniest guy on set. And then that camera would turn.
And he did what he does.
And he could give some good cape too. P.S.
Yeah.
Like
capeography.
Capeography.
Yeah.
Billowing. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Christina.
I mean, Alan Rickman is one of those actors that when he passed away, I straight up ugly cried. Yeah. So much respect, so much love for the characters that he
Greatest
creates
Christmas
in general, and of all the books, all the arcs, his is my favorite. But not only that, he was Snape. There was absolutely 1000%. I will say this. One of the things that I appreciated that they changed from the book to the movie was that his memories were tears. And I know some people were upset about that, but that I ugly cried in the theater because I thought that was a beautiful moment, because it brought so much more depth to that character. So
I agree.
And there's two characters that I'll say this about, and they're both on this list today. And this is one of them. Was a better character than they were in the book. That actor made them better than Rowling could ever have written.
Yeah. Richer,
It's just it's a what, 8 movies, it is a once in a lifetime performance for 8 full movies.
Yeah. The only thing I would say that was not good in the final movie, I think, is where it really started, in their effort to keep him looking like not as much time had passed.
CGI
makeup. No, his makeup. He was over made up, especially in the final film.
Was he getting sick then, though?
I think so. I think it was when that was happening, and they were doing their best to cover
the Freddie
it,
Mercury thing. They did that,
but
too.
you could really see it. Yeah, you could really see it, which is a shame. You know, and what a profound loss to all of us to not have him, that storyteller in our lives, taken too early.
And he's part of the the geek lexicon between Die Hard and this. I mean,
which is a Christmas movie, by the way.
It is a Christmas.
It is
it's
a Christmas
absolutely
movie.
Christmas movie.
It's a
You're not gonna find an argument. You'll find some people that will argue it on the show, but not me.
That's why I said
it.
Not us.
Okay, next character up is another just brilliant actress, McGonagall. I love her.
Maggie
now,
Smith can do
my
no
only
wrong.
problem is, on the last movie especially, she became Grandmama from Downton Abbey. She became that same character because I think she was probably playing at the same time. You watch her performance, and it's exactly the same as her.
No, I would disagree. As a huge fan of Downton Abbey,
I'm a huge fan of both. So
yeah,
too.
I would disagree.
And maybe I was looking for it. Maybe I was looking for it, but it felt very similar to me.
I feel like if you were looking for it, you could maybe pick up similarities. But if you're just watching it, no.
But
there was in Downton Abbey, there was the humor, the sense of humor was always dry and cutting, and was always like, she would say something hilarious that was clear that the ice was cracking, but it would be a deadpan. Whereas for me, a defining McGonagall moment is, I always wanted to do that spell.
Yes.
There's that little bit of sparkle and twinkle and delight.
The giggle.
And the giggle.
It's part of that whimsy that I still love, you know?
Yes. And so she still has that whimsy, whereas in Downton Abbey, it's always with a little fleck of judgment and superiority. And
I
so
feel
for
like
me, I felt it was very
okay.
different.
So possibly what I'm seeing is, it's not so much that she is condescending as McGonagall, but she pretends to be. She pretends to be better than everybody as that character. So maybe that's where I'm looking at it. I don't know, but great character in general, and in every one of the movies,
I think it's more that you're just seeing that it's the same actress, because it's still, as an actor, you're still taking.
You're still you.
You're still you. You're still you, and you're still having responses. So,
fantastic. 80-year, 70-year career.
Oh, she's just
still going.
Yeah,
still going. She is. Yeah.
She is a treasure.
Yeah, she was absolutely fantastic in every one of these movies. Now let's hit into, I think, the tied for best performance in Harry Potter, and that is Umbridge. Usually I will say this. Wait, give me 1 second. I know you guys will go off on this one, but usually I want my characters to have a little bit of good in them, because you've got to have. They just can't be evil. Wrong. This is the only character that I think can get away with it. There is nothing okay about this character. You cheer for, if you read the books and you know what happened with centaurs, you cheered for it, even though it's the most horrible thing in the world, and you cheered for it because she deserved it. And I didn't. And I will say this as well. I did not want to see her like you saw her in the books with the frog face and all that. It needed to be she couldn't have been as evil with the frog face. But go ahead, talk about Umbridge, and let's Chris, I know you've been wanting to talk about Umbridge for a minute.
Dolores Umbridge is the most vile, reprehensible character ever written, and it's wonderful. She is what made book 5 worth reading, that and the ending of it. Mm-hmm. She's just so damn evil. Like, she makes Voldemort look good.
He was worse than Voldemort. Way worse.
Like, Voldemort's plan is, I am going to kill Harry Potter and all these school children, and he fails at it. Whereas Umbridge, she's just evil. Like, when I saw The Cursed Child with my wife, she comes out on stage and everyone goes, "Oh God, no, she's here." Like, literally, that was the reaction. Like, in order, spoilers. I mean, spoilers.
You know what? Most of us aren't going to make it to New York. Let's be fair.
Okay.
But the fact that she's universally hated, even by Muggles, in the real world, like, that's how you know you got a pretty good character. Like, I always talk on my podcast, Georgetti on Ice, about heels of pro wrestling and what makes a good heel. You should listen to my podcast too. Shameless plug. But like, what makes a good heel is like they draw heat. They do evil, bad things to get a reaction out of you.
And their response to you, responding to them, is what makes them evil. And that's what she did.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about her and I'm angry. That's a great character right there.
Yeah.
Christina, do you have anything to say about Umbridge?
I have never loved hating somebody so much. I mean, that's the best way I can say it.
I'd rather deal with Joffrey from Game of Thrones than her.
Oh,
well,
he's
and
just
as
bad.
an actress, she's brilliant.
Yes.
As I've seen her in other things, and it's
as
hard
a very
for
nice
me to
person
watch her
too.
now because there's characters that like they are good, and then they do this about 180 and they play a character like this so brilliant that it changes everything.
Yeah.
It changes everything. So, I mean, she makes my skin crawl in a delightfully delicious way.
Hitomi.
I mean, I can do nothing but agree with you all. She is delicious. Mm-hmm. And it's also, she's a meal as an actor. Like, how lucky was she to get to dig into that? And the one thing that I was actually sad about is they didn't get to develop as much the Weasley twins kind of build up to her expulsion, leaving the portable swamp in the hallway and like all of the little things that sort of built up to that. But it's really the most satisfying expulsion. You can even imagine. You're right. She's somebody that you love to hate, and it's wonderful.
Now, this is something that I want to go into the next character that I want to talk about. And I think this is where the problem with Harry Potter is. Umbridge is the most hated character in this. And then we're going to talk about Voldemort. Because she was so good, and this is Ralph Fiennes playing him, could not touch her, and you did not care. You're not satisfied with the death of Voldemort. You're satisfied with what happens to Umbridge.
I mean, I was pretty satisfied when, spoilers if you haven't read it, and also if you're listening to this podcast and haven't read this,
what's the matter with you?
Doing? I was pretty satisfied when Voldemort was defeated, but like Umbridge stole his thunder.
Yeah,
he. But see, the thing about Voldemort is he's kind of like a classic cartoon villain, but he's more evil and complex, and is actually bad.
Yeah,
too. It's like
I just feel like they were so different. I think we're talking apples and oranges, in my opinion, because she is that sort of that she's that delightful evil. And Voldemort is that dark, dangerous evil, that sort of like lash out. There's just a different flavor to it. And so I actually found it really satisfying when, to watch him slowly disintegrate into little tissue pieces.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, neither one of them have redemption, but, she was, again, we say delightfully evil, like she had no redeeming qualities, but he's the one that didn't even think twice about killing Cedric, about, taking lives. And she truly had her own agenda. And we never quite figure out what that is, other than I think it falls back on the pure blood thing. But he is just he's a snake. Look at his face. Come on.
Snakes get a bad rap.
But I don't think they realized Voldemort as well in the movies as they did in the books.
Oh, I'll agree with you there.
And fantastic actor, but it just, I don't know if it was the direction. I don't know if it's the choices. I
think they took out too many of the fine details sometimes.
Well, Voldemort, really throughout the story, it's more so I'm going to compare it to the Phantom of the Opera. It's more how people respond to him, because it's more of this idea of him, and it's really hard to build on that, because it depends heavily on the actors' responses around him, and especially when you're dealing with a young cast, where the fear is a little more manufactured versus internally taken. Umbridge is a lot easier and a lot more immediate for a child to relate to as far as that threat. And something that I thought about is the difference between the dangers for both of them. Umbridge delights in the torture and in the punishment. Voldemort, you are nothing.
Yeah.
And so there's a cold, she's fire and heat, and he is ice. So there's just that again, it's different. For me, they both work, but again, I was coming from being a fan of the book, so I had already built him up in a way. So I think if I had seen the films first, I might have a different opinion.
Very good. Okay, now let's move on to our final-ish villain, Draco. Now, I think that this is a character that you just learn to hate less and less as time goes by. Because he does have somewhat of a redemption arc without ever being fully redeemed. But he's tolerable. He's tolerable by the end.
Because what you're watching is what happens when somebody is pressured into you start you start looking at the questions of nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm.
And they make it very clear with Dobby and and
Creature.
Pardon?
Creature? Is that who you're going with on that?
No, with
Lucius?
with Lucius.
Okay.
Who he's very beautiful to look at, but he's a total jerk. And you see the way that he treats Draco and is teaching. He puts Draco down and also teaches him by example how to be in the world. So the question becomes, how does somebody respond in that abusive? He's classic, abused child syndrome, where it's like, I get abused at home, so I'm going to abuse out in the world. And you watch him get to the point where he won't out Harry to Bellatrix. He can't kill Dumbledore. He's an absolute mess when they get into the, with the vanishing cabinets, and when they get into that duel, by the time Harry confronts him, he's like, he's literally having a breakdown. Yeah. So it's that humanizing factor.
Yeah.
It's also a prime example of, children do listen, to quote Into the Woods. And Draco is being taught by Lucius, and he's imitating his father. Satomi said it beautifully. And, by the end of the series, you feel bad for him, because at his core, he wants to be good. But he's just conflicted because he's been pulled in so many different ways, and he's been put in positions by these people of power and the people that are supposed to love and care about him, his parents, that you can see Like, he doesn't want to kill Dumbledore. He's being forced to do something that he would not do himself.
Even in the films at that last moment when Voldemort says, come over to my side, and he hesitates. He won't do it until his mother says, Draco. He comes over, and what do? Leave. Like, he is that at his core, I don't think that's who he is.
Yeah. Anybody else want to talk about this one before we move on? Christina?
The only thing I'm going to say is that I just wish at the end they would have given us just a little bit more. I agree with everything else that was said. For me, I would have loved for him to stay in that moment instead of going over. But it wouldn't have been complete because the Neville speech wouldn't have been as powerful. But I wanted to see just a little bit more because he was a character that you hated, but you wanted to like. Yeah. I mean, if that makes sense.
I didn't. I was angry that I was angry with myself that I started to like him.
I think it would have been way too pat if he had stayed. It would have made a a non-human choice, because as that's who we would want to be and hope that we would be.
That's
and
not
yet
who we
in
are.
reality, human behavior has historically shown that 99.9% of people, it's like if the people you love are saying, come over with me.
Well, and when you pair that with the fight or flight.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Okay, so now let's move on to our favorite family that was written so brilliantly and was executed on the screen so terribly, the Weasleys. If you read the books and then you watch the movie, you are going to be upset with the Weasleys. If you just watch the movies, you're okay with them.
Well, any movie adaptation of any book is always disappointing unless if it's The Lord of the Rings. Because Peter Jackson got that right, and he left in all the details. I think that's what happened here, is because they only had 2.5 hours to tell these massive stories in these books. They had to cut things out. Yeah. And
Lord of the Rings was a little overwritten. Controversial statement.
As someone who's tried to read the Lord of the Rings books, I'm getting on a tangent. I agree with that, though. The Weasleys are just so wonderful, and there's so many juicy bits. Like, every single member of that family, even Percy.
It's an interesting story arc.
Yeah, it's just so interesting because they're all so different.
The marriage thing.
Yeah.
The dragon hunting. All of that is wow.
They're a fully realized family. You're right. You're absolutely right. The brothers who don't finish school and go and do their own thing.
Twins,
the twins, yes. And we never even got into. So we got into Charlie. We barely got into Bill. We got Charlie. We didn't even meet.
No, not in the movies.
Not in the movies. They sort of made Bill and Charlie one person.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's disappointing. Yeah. Now there's some other people I want to talk about, but I'm looking at our time, and even in our chat that we have going, what about this character? What about this character? So here's what I want y'all to do. If you guys want to talk about a character, put it in our chat down there, and we will talk. We will talk all day long, but it is getting late o'clock right now, and so we are definitely out of time. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us. This has been such a blast.
Can we talk house affiliation real quick?
Okay, yes. That's our last thing we're going to hit. I am Dub, and my actual Potterverse affiliation is Gryffindor. Satomi is...
I'm Satomi, and clearly by my colors, my house affiliation is Slytherin.
And Chris?
I'm Chris Giorgetti. I'm sorry, Chris Garrett Giorgetti, and I'm a Hufflepuff.
I am Christina, the Cheeky Chi, and I am a Ravenclaw.
We have all four. All four
houses. All four.
Look out now.
Oh my gosh.
With that said, check out all our stuff. Keep on geeking on, guys. Thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.